to our next installment of Innovations Conversations. My name is Persephanie Quimby, and I'm the Director of Business Development here at Architecting Innovation. Today we're talking with one of our lead architects, our head UX UI designer, Randy Jeter. Hi, Randy.
Hi.
So, Randy, you just came out with a blog for us. It's called Creating a Seductive Interface, and I want to talk a little bit about that. You've come up with some interesting concepts and quotes in here that I think might be helpful for people who are diving in to create something that's kind of sexy and seductive, as you say. So when you wrote this blog, you promote that designers think about the big picture concepts when approaching user experience and interface, and you talk about the like button on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, and even Tinder with the swipe left or swipe right. And how this phenomena has really shaped the way that we are constantly judging our user experience. So tell us a little bit more about that.
I was just thinking of how it's an ever increasing situation where, with all the social media and with Tinder, like you say, we're constantly being made to judge the interface that we're interfacing with. So it becomes even more important that we design those interfaces in a way that it brings pleasure to people, that they enjoy using it rather than it being a chore.
So one of the other things that you talked about that I thought was really interesting is this idea of a $300 million button.
Okay.
So you were talking about how people go in and they've got stuff in their shopping cart up to the tune of $300 million. But ultimately they found that a lot of that was abandoned because once people were asked to take an additional step beyond something that they wanted to do, like create an account versus check out as a guest, that this had this major impact on this company.
Yeah, this was a major retailer, so you can probably guess who it would be that could sell $300 million a year. Is actually annually. When they started examining their dropped shopping carts, abandoned, they found that people were getting to the point ready to buy. They'd spent all this time shopping and making their decision, and they went in to buy, put in their credit card, all that part that bogs down the process, and then they would just drop it when they were forced to create a profile and enter all their information and go through all that. And so they as an experiment, they said, let's add a button that says check out as guest and go past all that. And it increased their sales by $300 million a year.
Wow. By
just adding that one button. So that's kind of one of the things we try to look at as how can we figure out how we can make the process as easy as possible for the user, and whether it's an enterprise application or a mobile app, whatever it is we're building.
And so is there any real science behind that, or is it really kind of a trial and error type situation?
The mistake that we can make is thinking that everyone thinks the same way we do. Even as a UX designer, when you've kind of studied all this and really perfected, a lot of the parameters of how this all works, you're still not the voice of your customer. You really want to figure out what the customer is using. Or the user. Like at Architecting Innovation here, we mainly build enterprise applications. So a lot of times that involves really long web forms that people have to fill out, a lot of data that's being put up on the screen as graphs, and a lot of stuff that maybe originated in a spreadsheet. And so you can't just take that spreadsheet and put it on the web and think, okay, we're done. And as a developer, it's kind of easier to just go, well, here was the requirements. We wanted to get this data on here, and we wanted them to be able to interact and enter this and then put out these results or these reports, say, for the CEO. But that's not really enough. We need to look at the user and what's their point of view. So just like when you're doing sales, you want to find out who the person that you're selling to, what are their needs, what are their requirements, what is their problem? What problem can we solve for you?
Absolutely.
And so then by looking at the user's needs, then you can tailor your answer or your solution to what is the best solution for them. So we want to really look at from a user's point of view, when they're using our product, what is the best approach and How do we seduce them into using our product and coming back to our product?
So this speaks a little bit to something else that you said. You made this comparison between partners, or you said mates and friends, and the user experience. So is it really just come down to being seduced?
Well, I kind of went with that analogy. I was thinking of like a lot of times when I'm working with developers, they're kind of like, we'll bring you at the end of the project and make it pretty. Well, that's really not what user experience is about. We should be in from the very beginning, and from the wireframing, from really tailoring how is this going to flow, how is this going to work. It would be the equivalent of, arranging a date with somebody, and instead of setting up where we're going to go, we're going to go to sushi restaurant. Oh, you don't like sushi? Oh, I blew it here, and it would be the equivalent of like saying, well, I'm going to put on my makeup and do my hair and figure out what I'm going to wear for the date 2 weeks from now. It doesn't really make sense.
I get it.
You need to get the functionality all figured out
The weather
first.
on the day.
Buy the tickets to the concert, the weather, all of that. And then the last step is, how it's going to look. Yeah. So many times they think of it, and UI, user interface, is a lot of the color, the layout, the what fonts you're using, all of that kind of thing. But it's much more about how useful it is and how streamlined the experience for the user is.
Well, and I think that it's also how you tie into, one of the other things that you said in this blog post was you used the example under entice the user of, there were these two attractive girls and they were taking a picture of themselves, and the idea was picture yourself with better credit.
Right.
Right?
That was a student loan
Exactly.
rehab. And
Yep.
so in order to entice somebody in, they've already defaulted on their student loan. So if we can get them to even think about coming to the website, first of all, when they get to the website, if it looks like a horrible thing of filling out forms,
Yeah.
they're just going to say, oh, forget it. Because
Sure.
in this case, it required, getting their tax forms together, all kinds of financial information, proving their identification. So I thought, how can we make that
More
a little more
attractive.
fun, a little more attractive? So I came up with the selfie kind of trend of
Yep.
picture yourself, so that they can get a mindset of, I'm picturing myself getting out of debt, fixing my credit, and then they're more willing to go through that arduous process of filling out all the forms.
So this quote by Frank Lloyd Wright I really like. Form follows function, that has been misunderstood. Form and function should be one, joined as a spiritual union.
Right, and that kind of goes back to the same thing of thinking of the prettiness of the end result and the really engine below that. If you're the data architect or the development architect, you're thinking about all of those parts that are not even seen by most of the public. And if you can meld those together and make those one, you're going to have a better end result.
Awesome, Randy. Well, thank you very much for your time, for explaining a little bit more detail your blog post. We look forward to hearing more from you.
Okay.
You can always visit us for more. You can join us at www.theaiteam.com. We hope to see you again here soon. Thanks.